This video is going to focus on the Ravens' potential 12 personnel grouping with Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews on the field. It's generated a lot of conversation, as well it should. Ravens fans, we're looking forward to both of those guys being healthy at the same time. If you look at the snap counts for Isaiah Likely, a lot of snaps, reps, and opportunity in Week 1, 2023 against the Texans. I think he played 24 snaps, somewhere in the 20s against the Bengals in Week 2 when Mark Andrews returned. Thereafter, snap count was dropping, dwindling, if you will, until Mark Andrews gets hurt in the rematch against the Bengals at home, and then suddenly Isaiah Likely is 50 snaps a game. We all know how he finished the year. 20 catches in his last 6 regular season games, including 5 touchdowns. 20 of those 20 catches, or 21, came on 28 targets. Averaged over 10 yards per target for the year, including 13.7 yards per catch. Non-Ravens fans, or Chiefs fans perhaps, may say, well, Isaiah Likely only had 30 catches. He's not a big factor. That's absolutely categorically not true. If you look at the film from when he became a starter, inherited the starting position basically when Andrews went down with the injury, the broken ankle, Likely took advantage of his opportunities. No, he's not an 8-catch per game guy, maybe like Mark Andrews has been in the past. He's a big play guy. He's a red zone target, someone who can make people miss, someone who can win at the catch point and can beat nickel defenders and, yes, even outside corners at times. I don't think he's a hybrid wide receiver like some people suspect, meaning someone that we're going to line up at the X. In my opinion, if we're going to have 2 tight ends on the field and one guy's going to line up the X, it's generally going to be Mark Andrews. We'll go through some film here as it relates to the Chiefs. The question for the Ravens is, with L'Jarius Sneed gone, do you want to get to their 5th DB? Meaning, do you want to be an 11 personnel and force the Chiefs' hand to put their nickel defense on the field? Or would you rather deal with their base 4-3? So removing L'Jarius Sneed, who has since left, obviously, via trade, removing him from the equation for the Chiefs, would you rather deal with their starting 2 outside corners and their starting safeties? Of course, one of those corners includes Trent McDuffie. Basically, anywhere you put him, whether it's nickel, outside corner, he's going to do an amazing job. So you're going to have a premier talent on the field at corner no matter what. Point is, for me, from a Todd Monken and Ravens offense perspective, their 12 personnel offense was not completely integrated and installed and smooth last year at the beginning of the season, in my opinion. They started off with an under-center run game. Eventually, as the season moved on, started to integrate the pass game more. I think the film will show that here a little bit. We're going to focus on film from 2023, obviously. And the first set of plays that we'll go over is what I call jet dive. Now, this happens to be a pretty big tackle for loss by Logan Wilson. Week 2, Ravens go on the road and beat the Bengals. Played a pretty complete game offensively, but we certainly ran the ball a lot under center. You have the jet to one side, and the jet is moving towards the side where Andrews and Likely are located. Presumably, those are just going to be arc blocks where they're getting out in space and they're just taking on whoever's out there, whether it be a corner, a DN/outside linebacker, whatever. In this case, the Bengals have a call on to utilize the outside linebacker, one of the inside linebackers, Pratt, to create a 3-on-3 if the ball is given to Devin Duvernay. In this case, it was not. And then now the edge defender theoretically is put in a little bit less conflict. He could either veer down the line of scrimmage to deal with the running back, which he does not do. The other drastic option would be go upfield to get to the quarterback in case he keeps it, or do what he does, and this is Trey Hendrickson, kind of par for the course for him, slow play it and then fold inside and get involved with the play anyway. Better example of it being effective, this one's actually earlier in the game. Same formation, same motion. Duvernay not exactly running the motion full speed. Again, I don't think that some of the 12 personnel stuff was completely integrated. That is not a motion that sells jet sweep at all. Zay Flowers a little bit later. You see a little bit more of a burst getting out of there, like he might get the football. But the timing is there, if you ask me, for the potential of the jet sweep. These guys, again, arc releasing or reach, whatever you want to call it, and then the jet being in the opposite direction. So with Derrick Henry being brought in as a free agent, clearly this makes sense. And we had trouble with that handoff, not just on this particular play. Lamar actually fumbled it or pseudo kind of tossed it in Week 4 against the Browns on the roads. You can see he had to really get out here, and it wasn't exactly a smooth movement there for Lamar to open to the jet and then get out to the dive. We seem to get it cleaner later on in the year. You will get the end zone angle of this one. Is this the type of stuff that you would rather do as a Ravens offense against the Chiefs if you're going to try to run the football with Derrick Henry? Well, when you get Pat Ricard on the field, you're going to get their base defense, their 4-3. If you go 22 personnel, you could get some really interesting defensive looks from the Chiefs. Maybe they do something like the Steelers do. But in terms of the way that this will shake out for the Ravens Thursday night, Bateman on the outside, Flowers would be the jet man in the slot, obviously. Likely and Andrews down here. It pretty much forces the Chiefs to declare their coverage. So if they take an outside corner and put him over here, then you pretty much know you got man. If they walk out an inside linebacker, push him out to play an apex position, which is inside leverage 4 to 5 yards off of the number 2 receiver, then you pretty much know you have zone. So you can use it to determine coverage pre-snap, not just generate yards in the run game and potentially in a play action pass. Give you the end zone angle on this one. I suspect that this stuff is in. It was in early last year. We didn't have Derrick Henry, obviously. The offensive line maybe wasn't as much of a concern. You do have a D tackle who's pretty easily been comboed up, and Logan Wilson is now put on an island by himself. Pratt has been moved out of there by the motion. Huge gain for Gus up the middle. Things that Derrick Henry already does well, number 1. Number 2, with the zone schemes, you're at least letting him get to the line of scrimmage untouched with a head of steam on his tracks and make a read, which is what he's done for years, I guess almost a decade at this point with the Titans and Alabama combined. Against the Browns, this is not the one that was fumbled. So this stuff is probably installed. You can generally look at offensive coordinators over the course of seasons, and certain things are installed earlier than others. There's a progression. It doesn't mean that a particular package hasn't been installed that we won't see until week 6 necessarily, but it means that certain things have been smoothed out. And this seemed, at least last year in 2023, for me, was one that was smoothed out earlier, the jet dive. Now, this is actually 11 personnel, and I do wonder if it would be more effective out of 11 personnel because you could force the nickel into the boundary. And what I mean is ball on the left hash, put your 2 actual wide receiver or 2 of your 3 wide receivers into the boundary, and then align the tight end to the field. And that would make sense, right? Because the jet is going to go from the boundary to the field, and you want this tight end to be one of the guys who's reaching or arcing or whatever you want to call it out to the edge in case you do give on the jet, which I think we should do. In this case, the Browns roll to it. So roll to it. They bring 0, I think that's Newsome, back to free safety. They roll up the actual free safety to the field, and then this nickel safety is going to go out into the flats with Flowers motion. So you've basically held 3 with 2, meaning Lamar, I guess you could actually say you've held 4. Lamar on the boot is holding the edge defender. The nickel is sliding out here with Zay Flowers. The free safety's rolling up. The boundary side, strong safety, whatever you want to call him, he was moving back, rolling back to the middle of the field. You've held 4 with 3. So what I mean by that is Zay Flowers, Lamar, and the actual guy who's getting the football. Those are the 3 I'm counting. All the other stuff is obfuscation, if you ask me. I want to see us run the jet. I want to see us run the jet and force some of the edge defenders for the Chiefs to make a decision about what they're going to do. They may get a tackle for loss early. They may set themselves up for this run, which I really like. I like the timing of the jet and the dive off of it. I think it really lines up with Derrick Henry's skills. Does it line up with Falele being our right guard on an inside zone scheme? Well, maybe not. Maybe that's not his, his relative strength. That's absolutely possible. End zone angle for this one. Again, this is 11 personnel. I know it's a 12 personnel video. We'll get to the pass plays with 2 tight ends on the field later. I kind of intentionally pushed that to the end to see if people would wait around. You can see the timing of it from a defensive standpoint. You got the quarterback's back turned out. We can obviously see the football, and some of these guys can as well because of their angle, but you're creating a situation where the quarterback's back is turned for a period of time, and it puts them in a little bit more conflict. I think you end up getting a half a step, sometimes a full step more in the direction of the running back's flow, and in this case, I think that bears true. because Justice Hill cuts it back and he's got great burst. It's actually the nickel defender folding back inside to make the tackle. Different concept, still 12 personnel, is pin pull, and this is the reverse step pitch. It's still off the jet motion. I have yet to see the Ravens ever hand this off, meaning only one receiver and run the jet out here to the boundary. I guess theoretically you could, and that's one of the reasons why you will see teams that do not roll to it. Notice the Bengals did not roll on this motion because they know we don't need to roll with it. They're going to use an outside linebacker for it. In this case, it's Pratt because they don't want to lose one of these DBs in either coverage and or the pitch back to the top side. And this was a huge hit by Morgan Moses, obviously, and then a great job of just staying on his guy by Isaiah Likely up top. I think that's a woozy that ends up getting taken outside, out of bounds. Same concept, a little less successful. Hilton plays it a little bit better. He doesn't get decked by Morgan Moses also. He kind of disrupts it, forces Macari to fold back. You got Likely out on the corner. Macari is pulling to the outside, and then he's going to step back inside to deal with Hilton, who's going right now. Additional to that, and I will replay this in a moment, you've got DJ Reader, who thankfully is gone, defeating the block or attempted block of Kevin Zeitler, who unfortunately is gone for us, and winning on the backside, ends up being the first guy in contact. You can see right here, yes, Zeitler trips over the foot of someone, but Reader has already framed him up. He's already got his arms extended, full extension. You were not going to scoop him in this manner. Hilton disrupted it, and DJ Reader, a defensive tackle, the backside defensive tackle, actually runs over the top and is the first guy to make contact. It's pretty ridiculous. Gives you an indication of how good he was. But 12 personnel stuff under center, not only the run game, I'm really interested in the pass game. This is an incomplete pass. We don't hit this one to Nelson Aguilar, but I like the design. I believe this was second quarter. I could be wrong. I like the flow of offenses that condition the defense to a certain output. And what I mean is input. This is 22 personnel, by the way. So you do have Likely on the field, and you do have Andrews, and then Ricard as your fullback. So I'm getting away with one here, but I want to show what is possible. And I also want to like to say we can't only run the play action with two tight ends on the field when Ricard is on the field too. You know what I mean? We got to do it sometimes when it's Andrews and Likely and no Ricard. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense. But I like conditioning the defense. Your input is 12 personnel, or in this case 22 personnel. And the output is run game when we go under center. Condition them. Give them 3, 4, 5 examples of that. And then utilize the play action to go up top or wherever you want to go with it at a place and time of your choosing. I do like the over concepts. I would like to see, like, if the tight end is going to be on the right, Likely, run the vertical with him, and then the receiver from the other side, if it is 22 personnel, run the deeper over concept. But in this case, we're going up top to Aguilar. There is a possibility to get the ball there. He's not totally beat CTB. Clearly, CTB is a great corner. Ends up being overthrown, but nonetheless, that's the type of concept I would like to see us shoot for occasionally, especially with Derrick Henry in the backfield. A little bit safer version of it. The boot gives Lamar the option to get out to the edge. Jack Campbell, I think it's Jack Campbell for the Lions, plays it really poorly out here. Doesn't collision Andrews at all. So then Andrews is able to cross his face, get out to the sideline. Derek Barnes can't catch up. What do you get when you go 12 personnel? Well, sometimes you get a team's base defense. And in this case, you've got 3 down linemen, outside linebacker / inside linebacker. Really, Jack Campbell's an inside linebacker. And then Aiden Hutchinson, outside linebacker, DN, edge player, whatever you want to call him. 2 inside linebackers. There's your 3-4. 40 years ago, 50 years ago, they would have called a 50. In any case, it's a 7-man front, and they've rolled up a strong safety to the field, to the side where you have Andrews and OBJ. Well, there's 2 tight ends, so which safety do you roll up? Generally, they're going to be to roll up the one to the field. You can force teams into a one-high look with Ricard. I'll get to that a little bit later this week, 21 personnel and 20 personnel. Or you can force teams into a one-high look with 2 tight ends on the field. I think there's something to be said for that. I really do. The Chiefs and Steve Spagnuolo, this is speculation. He's very versatile and very multiple. His teams are well trained. They're going to be able to execute a shit ton of coverages and schemes across all three levels: the D line, the inside linebackers, and nickel strong safety, and then the corner and free safeties. They're going to be able to execute a lot. I do wonder if putting them in their base defense possibly limits some of their coverage output depending on the formation we line up in. Meaning, can Todd Monken control some of the coverages we see and thereby get us a little bit more higher percentage looks? And what I mean is, instead of it being a 55% look in terms of a pass play, maybe he can push it to 68 or 70%, which is what we're going to need to try to win the football game. Obviously, you can still get in the shotgun because both of these guys have great receiving skills. You can also get in the shotgun to run the football. This is one of the more memorable runs from the shotgun, I thought, last year in terms of 12 personnel. You had trips down into the boundary. 3 guys to the boundary, bringing Likely from the boundary into the field, and then running counter back the other way. Look at what you've got the defense to do. Basically, give away their coverage, number one. It's man. Number two, subtract someone from the run fit. And the Browns were really lucky that this one didn't go all the way into the end zone for Melvin Gordon. It was close. Do wonder about Spagnuolo and the Chiefs, how much 12 personnel they've prepped for, and can we alter and change between being under center and in the shotgun 12 personnel to kind of put them in difficult situations. Meaning, 2nd and 8, he's probably going to be in his nickel defense. Maybe we run the ball out of 12 personnel. 1st and 10, maybe he's in his base defense and we throw the football. Monken is up, I think, is in line for a comeback game against this defense. I am quite sure that he spent the whole offseason, and the offensive staff, the whole entire group, studying what went wrong, maybe what they could have done. Obviously, run the football. Now we have Derrick Henry, so that shouldn't be a problem. Studying the Chiefs' defense, what they do, when they do, and perhaps why they do it. Are the Ravens only going to rely on 12 personnel? No, but I've received so much in the comment section about it. What can the Ravens accomplish? Can it be our base look? I think last year you're talking about 9% of the plays was 12 personnel. I might be wrong there. Feel free to go correct me on that. This is a short yardage play against the Texans. Obviously, Andrews is not on the field. It's 3rd and 1. You've got a 4-3 look by the Texans, 4 down linemen, 3 inside backers. And by aligning up 2 tight ends and a receiver here, you give guys the ability to combo. And that's what Likely and Zay are doing. Obviously, Zay Flowers can't block a defensive end. But when Likely helps him for a moment, just combos, gets his hands on and moves up to the second guy. And really, check out how Kolar handles it. He's just cupping here on the backside. It's the same side run because Gus's feet was here on the same side as the bunch. He's just cupping on the backside, looking for something to try to stunt to the inside and close it off. And then once Likely moves up, Kolar, Likely, and Zay have handled an inside linebacker and a backside defensive end. I think it's a great illustration of how we can get things done with 12 personnel. Happened to stumble upon this view today. It wasn't one that I originally had in the playlist for this video, but it's one of my favorite ones because I don't think you need to hit home runs with these tight ends on every play, and certainly Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely, from a blocking standpoint, are not going to hit a whole bunch of home runs. Where they both do most of their damage in the pass game, can they be used together in combination? I absolutely think they can. I think that Monken's got to vary where he lines them up. You can't always put one guy into the boundary or one guy into the field. Teams will try to match up man in particular situations. This happens to be a 1st and 10, so you're not exactly looking for that type of approach from the defense, meaning we're going to lock up man like a 3rd down. This is an example of the Seahawks staying in a too high look, and they have a nickel defender on the field. It's Jamal Adams, who's since moved on from Seattle. So they're in their nickel defense against 12 personnel. And Steve Spagnuolo may choose to do that Thursday night as well. He may choose to line up in his nickel defense and say, if you want to run the football against our nickel, go right ahead. Maybe that's what Todd Monken wants to see. Maybe that's and I think that's the benefit of 12 personnel, is that you're going to get different answers each week, and you can exploit those answers that each team provides. Everyone's not going to stay in their base defense. In this case, Seattle happens to. The previous play, they did not. They bring a corner blitz. This is an outside linebacker lined up over Zay Flowers. So from a agility and speed standpoint and route running, you got an absolute mismatch. So what does that mean? Seahawks are not playing man. Seahawks are playing a 3 deep, 3 under because they're bringing the corner. Tariq Woolen, corner blitz. Inside linebacker down here to the boundary, kind of left in no man's land with 2, Andrews and Likely. Lamar gets the ball out there quick. You can predetermine coverage, even in the shotgun formation, putting 2 tight ends to the boundary and 2 receivers to the field. I really like this formation, whether we're under center or in the shotgun. If we were under center, Likely would probably be a little bit closer to the left tackle, and Andrews would probably be moved in a little bit further, like create a compressed formation to one side. Quick, easy completions, ability for Lamar to know the coverage or know that it's not man or know that it is not zone, depending on how the defense lines up. I think that'll be a big benefit for us, potentially, a big benefit for us Thursday night against the Chiefs because Spagnuolo is so good at disguising coverages and using multiple looks. Both guys end up to the field here on the motion. Same formation that the Ravens used against the Lions, except Lamar is not under center. He's in the shotgun. You're going to get Likely motioning to the field, very similar to what he did a big play against the Rams, big touchdown against the Rams. All short concepts. That would be one concern that I have is that so far out of 12 personnel in the shotgun, we've seen a lot of short concepts. We've seen a lot of snag flat, slant flat, stuff like that. OBJ was really good at that in 2023, don't get me wrong. I would like to see us be maybe a little bit more diverse and show some more depth of target, I guess is the right way to put it from an analytics standpoint. This is the same play, end zone angle. You can see that Seahawks are in their nickel defense again. Witherspoon, one of the safeties, slot corner, nickel, whatever you want to call them, and then Jamal Adams, left-hand side. So they're in a 4-2 box, but they've rolled both of those guys up. Lamar, great decision, perfect timing. OBJ beats Tariq Woolen to the inside. Thought he had a great game that week against the Seahawks. Likely's touchdown, 54 yards. Now, this is not 12 personnel. The question here is, will you get this alignment and this coverage from teams like the Chiefs? I would not anticipate blown coverages at all. But the Ravens saw something. We had run this before during the season. You saw one against the against the Seahawks, where you get a wheel by Likely. The Rams are in their base because that is a DB, number 43. I forget his name. I think it's John Johnson or Josh Johnson. But it looks like a 3-4. It certainly does. He's walked into the box as an inside linebacker. The Ravens got no rotation out of this, meaning there was no rotation of the DB core. Here's the 5th DB. That's why I pointed him out a minute ago. No rotation like we saw with the Browns. One guy spinning down, one guy running with the flats or something like that. There's no rotation at all, no movement, no respecting of the motion, and the Rams clearly get a blown coverage. Lamar recognizes it. It won't be that easy. However, it does give you an indication of the type of routes that Todd Monken trusts Isaiah Likely to run. Deep wheel routes are not typically run by tight ends, at least in my experience watching NFL film. Occasionally it happens, don't get me wrong, but it's normally faster wide receivers who can get down the field quickly, get on top of the route, if you will. Things weren't as smooth earlier in the year with the passing game portion. That's why I structured this with the run game first under center, because to me, it seemed like the install was under center jet dive first. So a little bit of play action. You saw our one attempt to go up top to Nelson Aguilar out of 22 personnel that was incomplete. I showed you. I didn't see much of this early on in the year, and a lot. What I did see looked a little clunky like this. Likely's going to end up sitting down. Andrews does too. Lamar ends up getting sacked, and we're very fortunate that we get a penalty called on the Bengals. Point is, things didn't look smooth, so I wouldn't say that the entire offense is a 12 personnel offense, even though it's the NFL. There's only a certain amount of time for these guys to install things. So, can the Ravens have a 12 personnel offense, if you will, installed with a complete package of under center runs? Well, they better, because we have Derrick Henry. And can we have a commensurate passing game to utilize if teams like the Chiefs on Thursday night are coming out in their base defense and we want to take advantage of them in the pass game and the receiving skills that Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely offer? Yes, because of the unique situation we're in that both of these guys are healthy now. We don't know if they'll both be healthy in Week 10. Unfortunately, it's going to sound terrible to say this. The nature of football and how many games these guys play in such a short span, you may not have one of them in Week 10. So I think it makes sense to spend time early getting the offense installed from a 12 personnel standpoint and force teams into different questions. Everybody is used to defending 11 personnel with their nickel defense, their 4-2-5 structure. 4 linemen, whether they're outside linebackers, DNs, whatever. 4-2-5 is the same thing from a 3-4 platform. It's the same thing from a 4-3 platform. From the standpoint of 4 guys on the line of scrimmage, 2 inside linebackers, and then 5 DBs, one of which is a nickel defender. Do the Ravens want to go up against the Chiefs' nickel for the large majority of Thursday night's game? Well, then they better be in 11 personnel. If the Ravens would like to be against their 4-3 for whatever reason, 3 of the inside linebackers still being on the field as opposed to the nickel defender, then the Ravens need to be in 21 personnel, 22 personnel, and some 12 personnel early on to see what Steve Spagnuolo is going to do. My suspicion is we'll be in 12 personnel probably 2 plays on the first possession, whether it's a 6-possession drive, 4, or whatever. I think we'll be in 12 personnel early, at least twice. Probably ball on the right hash and ball on the left hash to see what Steve Spagnuolo does. Do you answer with your nickel defense? Do you answer with your base? I'm not going to look at it from a simplistic standpoint. Oh, we can throw the ball against their base defense and run the ball against their nickel. If we want to run the ball successfully out of 12 personnel, Isaiah Likely and Mark Andrews got to block. And they've got to block more consistently than they have at certain times. Those two are both better at arcing to the outside and going and get an outside corner or a nickel or a safety or something like that. They're not guys that generally block well from a combo down block situation. That's not their skill set. That's not the strength of their skill set, excuse me. I'm not saying they can't do it, but it's not as simple to me as just to say we run against their nickel and we throw against their base defense. We're going to have to execute uphill sometimes against the better look that teams can provide on their defense, and we got to try to avoid 3rd and 6, clearly. Derrick Henry should give us the opportunity to do that. These two, if you ask me, give the Ravens a real trump card to deal with the defense, especially with the Chiefs, in my opinion. How are they going to line up? Nickel or 4-3? And coverage-wise, can we force them in a situation if they go base 4-3 where they're limited to the 2 receiver side? Talking about the formation where we line up 2 tight ends to one side, 2 receivers to the far side, the opposite side of the field. And we basically give Lamar a lot of intel pre-snap about what he's going to see and possibly limit the Chiefs' ability to blitz us as well. Appreciate you guys' time, man. If you enjoyed the video and how I speculated on the Ravens could use Andrews and Likely, I tried to use film to justify it as well. I think those 2 guys can be an integral part of this game Thursday night, and I look for them to increase the Ravens' offensive efficiency level no matter how the Chiefs respond. Appreciate you guys' time.